What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show. Always, I like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. 2018 Innovation Award winner, given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. And once a month, I host online conversations for fathers that are co-sponsored by Dad Central, Canada's national fatherhood organization, and Dove Men Care. And it is August 30th, the end of August, coming to the end of summer. The sun's getting up later, but it's setting earlier. So the summer's beginning to wind down. But more importantly, it's the last Sunday of the month. And on Black Canada Talking, we are so blessed and highly favored to have our three friends back. So let's bring them in one by one. First up from Halifax, Elle Jones. What is up, Elle?
Hi, thanks for having me back. What is up? I don't know, getting ready for the school year, and everything's online for everybody. So, well, not for the kids, but if you're in university, so that's like 10 times the work. And then just, as the summer winds up, I think everybody's kind of thinking where this momentum of the summer, all this protesting, all of this Black summer stuff that happened, how are we going to take that forward into the fall as work ramps up, as obviously the weather gets bad. So I think there's a lot of thinking about, what does the movement look like going forward now that the summer has ended, and how do we keep the momentum and keep organizing and keep unified with each other? So those are the kind of things on my mind. And thank you for having me as always.
Always a pleasure. Well, the last time we tried to get you together was a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah, well, my computer decided to just not have a camera anymore. And of course, in these times, that's just unworkable. So yeah, like 10 a.m. the next morning, I was in the Apple store, So that's why Black folk can never get ahead. Everything's anti-Black. Cameras are anti-Black. Computers anti-Black. Zoom is anti-Black. Couldn't get on.
Well, it's great to have you back, and we're glad that you overcame that challenge. So welcome as always. Next up, he's not in Ottawa today. Actually, both our next two friends are not in Ottawa. So first up, Warren Clarke, where are you today?
Oh, wow. Telling people where I'm at. Okay. Hi, everyone. I am in Toronto today, just to answer the question. Thanks again for having us a part of this monthly program, which is, learning for me and I'm trusting for everyone else. So I really appreciate being involved.
Good. How has the last month been since we last chatted with you?
I still have my hair on my head. So
well, sorry, you got some catching up to do. All right.
It's been positive. So I'm very humbled, very appreciative of the people I'm working with, and the great accomplishments that a lot of the programs that I've been working on is seeing some great strides to help the community in Ottawa.
Excellent. And then our last but not least, Cesar is not in Ottawa either. And funny enough, when he showed his background, when he joined us, I said, I know exactly where that is. And I got on the right guess. So Cesar, how are you?
I'm very good, Dr. Vibe. I'm very good, everyone. Hello, family. Hello, Elle. Hello, Warren. I'm okay. I'm good. Thank you. I'm in beautiful Niagara Falls on a romantic getaway with my partner. He deserves it. When we talk about supporting Black love, in the spirit of Black Lives Matter, Wakanda, and Black identity, brothers and sisters, of course, have to show that love, and including not just supporting Black businesses, but also showing good times to our loved ones. And that's why I'm not going to show the view for our friends, but let's just say presidential suite, Canada Falls. But you know what? We can all make it happen. It's not about Cesar. It's about all of us. We all got to make it together.
Well, good. Well, we appreciate you, but we also appreciate the lady for allowing you to come on for an hour. So, we know who's in charge, Cesar. We know who's in charge. All right. The old Queen Latifah song, "Ladies First." You know what I'm saying?
You know what? The Pan-Africanist view of love is never behind one great man, there's a great woman. That is Mama, of course. But it's always next to a great man, there's a great woman. And the partner walks alongside me. She's just in the other room, and she made sure that I was here on time, because let's face it, Cesar time sometimes tend to be a little bit too much.
I'm not gonna go there. Let's get into our conversation. Let's get at it, folks. First topic I want to chat about that's very interesting. There's a lady named Leslyn Lewis, and a number of Canadians may not know who she is, but you're going to know who she is in the very near future. She is actually a lawyer, a member of the Conservative Party. And just a little backdrop on this, the Conservative Party of Canada has elected a new leader named Erin O'Toole. He's a member of the Durham region, which is a little bit east of where I am right now. And on the first ballot, him and Peter MacKay, Mr. MacKay was supposedly the favorite. Erin O'Toole finished ahead of Peter MacKay. And then there was this lady, Leslyn Lewis, no political experience, Black woman. She got she was in third place. On the second ballot, Ms. Lewis gave all her votes to Mr. O'Toole, and that's how Mr. O'Toole became the leader of the Progressive Conservative Party. And I think it's quite interesting in the Canadian history, a Black woman having power in the Conservative Party. And folks, I'm not using blue because I'm a conservative, all right? So just relax on that, all right? I'm just using it as a background. So I just wanted to get your takes on that. This has been a crazy year all over the place, but I don't think we should not look into this and see what the potential effects down the line can be for Canada and Black Canadians. Who wants to start on that?
Al, the honor is yours.
Okay, because I'm the woman, is that it?
Well,
I think there's a few points of view on this. I think the first thing I want us to think about is how it benefits the state when Black people are part of the Conservative Party, right? And I mean, let's also be clear that whether Conservative or Liberal or any other party, none of these parties are invested in the well-being of Black people. Just having Black politicians, Black leaders, does not mean that therefore the party centers Black people, puts our liberation first. There is no party in Canada that's going to like open the prisons and let Black people out. So I just want to be clear that I don't particularly have a partisan take on these politics in terms of I'm not particularly invested myself. That's a personal decision in the electoral system because I find change on the streets, right? I'm not saying I don't vote. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I'm just saying that like I don't get into the whole like, okay, I'm in this party, I'm in this party, I'm in this party. I'm fighting for Black liberation. I will fight for it everywhere. But I think it's interesting, you know, for a long time, we've had a really strong Black liberal caucus, and it actually makes a kind of strategic sense for the state to also, for example, have Black conservatives there. What does that mean for us? What does it mean for our advocacy when we focus it at the state? So one thing that I think we get bound up in as advocates sometimes is that we focus on like lobbying the political party rather than on the continuity of activism. So we saw this when people were scared the Liberals weren't going to get reelected, and it was like, oh, but we like did all this work over the last 3 years to get Trudeau to acknowledge the decade and get this funding that we got. We got 25 million, and what happens if a different party comes in and we don't get those things? And so I think what's interesting about seeing Black people being more prominent and active in the Conservative Party is that stuff is going to be in continuity, because what that stuff prevents is what's happening on the streets. The state is willing to put things in place so that Black people don't, is basically what I'm saying. So whether it's Liberals or Conservatives, even though for white people, those are very separate poles, to a certain extent for Black people, like they're going to give us that cultural funding or that employment funding or the whatever it is, as long as it stops us from, really, really advocating against the state. If we really were going to unify and get in the streets as Black people and say none of you political parties are serving us and we need a unified political voice in our own party, that's when we'd see the repression. So I think this is very similar to kind of the debate going on in the States, right? Where people are very happy to see Kamala Harris as VP, running as VP. But there's a lot of debate over like her record as a prosecutor. You have Joe Biden, who wrote the crime bill. You have Kamala, who was a prosecutor. And there's a lot of debate over, she didn't pardon people with cannabis offenses. She kept people in prison. She prosecuted, truant parents. And that kind of record placed against the representation of having a Black woman. And people are having those debates, right? But when we think about what it means to be represented in politics, I think we always have to recognize that the neoliberal state system doesn't mind having Black people. If you're willing to still do the deportation, and if you're willing to still put people in prison, and if you're willing to still transfer wealth upward to the 1%, then it doesn't really matter what face it is. And so our challenge of Black people, and that's not that we don't support our politicians when they're serving us. I'm not saying that every politician is a sellout or every politician is against our interests. What I'm saying, though, is I've never believed that our liberation can be bound up in that. And we saw that under Obama, because we're not ultimately they're not the president of Blackie Land. They're the president of the colonial nation of Canada, or the US, or the prime minister of the colonial nation of Canada, or the leader of the colonial conservative party, or the whatever minister in the colonial liberal party. And so I think we get really bound up in this notion of representation, that we need Black faces, but what we actually need is Black unification in a political voice. We need a unified political voice, and that doesn't matter if it's in the Conservative Party, Liberal Party, NDP, Communist Party. If we don't have, as a community, which we don't have a real organized way of presenting our policies, of fighting together. We'll have, a million meetings, and we have this policy and that committee and this and that. So like we said 50 times, we want to abolish minimum sentences, but we're still not doing the work to abolish minimum sentences because we can't actually really push that. We're always perceived as poor and powerless, right? So the challenge, this is a long answer, so I'll wrap it up. I guess what I'm saying is the challenge isn't having one person as a leader of Conservative Party or one person as a minister, coming to a quota in cabinet. It's, as a community, do we have a sustained political voice, or are we seen as poor and powerless and able to be disregarded? And until we're taken seriously as a political force in Canada, until our vote is taken seriously, until people cannot run for office without the question of what is my policy going to be towards Black Canada, until we're not an afterthought, until CBC on election night CBC in this election didn't show a single Black face the entire election coverage. I know because I was invited and then they disinvited me, right? So even with Trudeau's blackface, we still couldn't crack the lineup on the night of the election. And that sends us the message that nobody cares about us. So we have to make them care about us. So I'm not as bound up in what the representation is. I'm much more bound up in no matter what party, how are we pressuring them? How are we putting our voice forward? And until we as a community show up in force and they know that we can withdraw our vote, withdraw our dollars, withdraw our presence, when it doesn't matter what party people are in, because we're still not going to have our goals. So that was a really long answer, but that's my preliminary thoughts.
No problem. Warren, follow up.
Well, Elle, beautifully said. I think you were in my head. I was saying, yeah, I'm going to say this, and then Elle said it. So thank you.
Sorry.
I agree, and I'm going to echo maybe a lot of what she said or what Elle mentioned just now. Now, it's not about a representation. It's about who this person is, regardless of male, Black, female, Black, regardless of who they are, their ethnicity, how they represent or acknowledge the Black community. We've seen time and time again, there's Black leaders that look like a duck, figuratively speaking, but not walking like a duck. And that's been very problematic for many types of institutions, public, private, or in the political sphere. So we have to definitely recognize what this person's politics is, instead of just looking at the representation, saying, "Hey, there's another Black face. Oh my gosh, it's time," because it could be something that's going to be very destructive. We are seeing, not to discuss too much in the States, but we do see many times where we do see Black faces who represent themselves in the political parties, and then representing the political parties, and their agenda is totally off whack. Not to mention names, but I'm sure people can think of some names that when I speak. But it's happened even recently. So we have to acknowledge that it's not about representation; it's about the social discourse and how they represent and what they're fighting for people, especially in the Black communities. Again, we have to acknowledge, particularly in Canada, we live in a white settler nation state. And a lot of the ideologies of what that means is infused in our education, our political, and our social way of living. And it doesn't mean that a person, again, who represents the Black skin has acknowledged that that is a reality for many people, particularly Black people, who can adopt that white settler ideology. And if they adopt that white settler ideology and compounded with their political views, then all they're going to be doing is continue that white settler destructive ideology, which harms the Black community and Black members within the nation state. So it's really, really important to not only look at representation, just like much what Elle mentioned, but actually pay attention to what their views are. Because sometimes what we're doing is we're voting people in just because they look like us, but not walking the walk in terms of what we need them to walk to actually liberate Black bodies or Black people within the Canadian nation state.
Nice. The man from Niagara Falls, it's your turn.
Thank you very much. Elle and Warren, really, I echo what you guys said. Honestly, in terms of Pan-Africanism, you said it so well. At the end of the day, Canada is a Western nation, a nation awash with systemic racism, as the United Nations themselves fully documented, a nation that is built on colonial land, as very much the beheading, we should even say, of the statue of John A. Macdonald this weekend in Montreal. I want to say that I would be proud for Mrs. Lewis in terms of her personal achievement, but truthfully, it doesn't really change anything to the realities of Black people, especially when a certain conservative party, and let's be careful, even if I'm a former Liberal delegate and I worked for the Obama election in 2008, I'm not giving a pass to the Liberal, Democrat, left, whichever, but it also speaks to a conservative party to want to use the fact of Mrs. Lewis, notably a Black woman, an evangelical woman, a very accomplished woman, notably in Western standards, as a lawyer. But what are they saying regarding Black people? When the newly elected chief, Erin O'Toole, especially elected thanks to the votes of Mrs. Lewis, talks about a party that is welcoming all, no matter the races, and I think he said sexual orientation and such. But what are they really saying? Because too often Black people have been fooled by the nice words, especially, as my colleague said so well, a matter of putting a Black face, but concretely it hasn't changed anything. Of course, the Obama example very much sticks here. But in terms of Mrs. Lewis, I just, the personal achievement that she did is to be celebrated. First Black woman to successfully run at a federal level, so national level, for party leadership, kind of to echo Dominique Anglade in Quebec at a provincial level, but in the concrete reality of Blackness, in the concrete reality of Black youth, women, men, and especially talking of systemic racism, police brutality, affordable housing, employment discrimination, all of these topics that when conservatives, especially the Conservative Party, speaks either of fiscal conservatives or of social conservatives, and even in terms of geopolitics, in terms of Canada's relations with Caribbean countries and African countries, what is there to celebrate really because a Black woman really reached that level? In the US, the Washington Post was praising, I believe back in June in an article, the arrival of Mrs. Lewis. But concretely, what is that really changing? Even if, let's just say, she was to become Prime Minister as a few years ago, Michael Jean became Governor General. The symbolism is nice. And that's why I went to work for the Obama election in 2008. But we need more than the symbolism. We need far more than the words. And we need far more than just representation in terms of blackface. The concrete actions, the accountability, and a leadership that is not so much in terms of a blackface, but that is in terms of truly being able to speak to constituents and being able to articulate the demands in terms of a true progress. Très brièvement en français, la question qui porte sur Madame Leslie Lewis, première femme noire à être arrivée à un tel niveau de succès en termes de leadership pour la tête du Parti conservateur. En gros, mes collègues, elle et Warren, ont dit très bien que le simple fait d'avoir une femme noire ne change pas vraiment les réalités des personnes noires. Et j'ai notamment rajouté, il ne faut pas tomber dans le piège. On en a vu d'autres, conservateurs, mais notamment au niveau des libéraux, comme des démocrates aux États-Unis, et que donc, on doit passer au-delà du symbolisme, on doit passer au-delà de la représentation, mais par rapport aux enjeux tels de discrimination à l'emploi, de brutalité policière, de logement, et même au niveau de relations internationales, au niveau des Antilles comme de l'Afrique, qu'est-ce que cela change réellement au niveau des personnes, surtout quand un parti n'articule pas un vrai programme de parti par rapport aux Noirs.
All right, folks, thanks for a great start off. Warren or Elle, do you want to add anything before we move on to the next conversation topic? We're good? This is going to be, I guess, the next parts of the rest of our conversation is going to be very heavy in regards to two significant incidents. First of all, a week from today, Jacob Blake. We know, well, if you don't know about this story, your head is in the sand. I'll just leave it short and sweet that he was approached by police without being armed and was shot 7 times in his back. And he's still in hospital. He's paralyzed from the waist down. During his time in the hospital, there was a part of his time he was handcuffed to his bed. Then during the week, we had the NBA players basically boycott playing games in the playoffs. They're back playing now. They allegedly made an agreement with the owners to help move social justice through the NBA. Folks, what do you have to say about this incident? It's really disturbing, heart-wrenching. Who wants to go on this conversation piece first?
I would like to.
Go ahead, Warren.
Sorry, I don't mean to dominate. I don't want to take up too much of my space when I
want. Go ahead, Warren. Take your time, please.
It's compounded the fact that we're witnessing another black male in the United States being gunned down at extreme aggression by the state. My issue is with the NBA, and I'm a huge NBA fan. I love me some Lakers. I love me to watch me some LeBron James. It brings me so much joy when I see someone getting dunked on. I don't care what their politics are. I see that happen. I'm just like, good for you. You shouldn't have been in the paint. Good for you. But when it comes to taking a stance and knowing that this is not the first time this happened in the United States, and I can bet my dollar, and I don't want this to happen. I'm not wishing this to happen, but I can bet my dollar it's going to happen again, because this has been an ongoing issue in the United States of America. And if they are not recognizing the trend here of killing countless black bodies in that country, and them thinking they're going to take one night off to disrupt white settler capitalist neoliberalism nonsense, think again. It's not going to do anything. You know what I mean? They have signed the contract, and I'm going to sit straight up and say it. They've signed the contract with the devil. That's what they've done. And they've recognized that. They've shown that to the public. That, you know what? Yeah, we're going to put on some shirts. Yeah, we're going to put up our fists. Yeah, we're going to take a knee. But you know what? We'll take a day off. We're going back to get that money. That's white capitalist money. In order to really disrupt what the heck is going on in that country, you need to shut it down. El, I have to apologize to you. I really do. I was thinking after our first conversation what you said. You came off fiery, and I was like, I don't know. But you know what, El? Sign me up. Sign me up. Particularly when you're witnessing this, week after week or month after month. Because again, we only see surface level. We don't see what the heck is going on a day-to-day basis in different states, the police aggression on black bodies. And they know. It's not like they don't know. They know. And I think the LeBron James of the world, the Michael Jordans of the world, the Allen Iverson of the world, they should shut it down. Don't play. Don't exploit your talents for white capitalist money on the blood of black people. No. If you're going to stand for something, stand for it all the way. And I have to be upfront. People like myself, El, Cesar, Dr. Vibe. Yeah, the reality is this is our work. We work in this. We get paid for this. I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm talking from my perspective. So, it'd be a fool for me to say, hey, stop your money train, while I'm getting my money train to talk about this. I create programs for this. I teach this. So this is my income. But I'm not, when you start getting to the political arena, my philosophy is you go hard or you go home. You don't go halfway, because you're exploiting the people who live a day-to-day life, not making $1 million that they're making. And for them to just survive, they have to pray and speak to their young youth about going outside, and please don't go to this certain area. Please watch your back, and please come when you're there. And yes, we do that here in Canada, but it's at an extreme circumstance in the United States. So I'm very fiery about this issue, because I don't think they're taking this serious. I don't think Black America generally is taking this situation serious the way they should. It's at a point where you look at it and you say, dang, again? Like, what's the whole point of protest? What's the whole point? What are they doing this just to get the new Jordans to walk around and steal it from the store? Why are they doing this? At this point, it doesn't make any sense to me. And this doesn't mean or taking a shot from any political leader who's fighting the march. You know, I commend you. I stand in solidarity with you. But in order to fix that problem, they need to shut that down. They need to shut it down. You know, I'll give an example. Sorry, I don't mean to dominate, but this is an issue that we need to discuss. We need to acknowledge this. You know, like, when does it come to a point and you say, you know what? Okay, when is it going to come to a point when they say, you know what? This Black person has died and it's impacted me and my family, but my community, and I need to stop. I need to sit down, reflect, and stop and work with these people. It's not about money anymore. It really isn't. And the NBA and those players are making this very political and making it about money. And I'm going to stop there because I feel like I'm going on a real rant. So thank you for listening. I appreciate it.
No problem, Warren. That's more than fine. That's powerful stuff, and it needs to be said. Who'd like to follow up with that?
I guess I'll go. We always have Cesar last. First of all, Warren, I don't remember you saying anything that you would need to apologize for, but my brothers on this show are always so like kind and gentlemanly to me. So they're always like taking care of me on the show. So thank you. But yeah, I 100% agree. And even beyond the NBA, this has been the problem, right? The difference between performative activism and actual organizing, right? And I said this at the time when the NBA was like saying they're going on strike. I'm like, you have to do it for more than one day. Like, you can't, if it's one day, it's just a performance. Oh yeah, look, we're protesting this. And then they kept using this language of, well, it's really painful to play and like, we don't want to play because it's too much. I'm like, but it's not that it's too much. Like, we as Black people are too tired to play, which is also can be true. It's that we are withdrawing our labor from this country built upon our labor, and we will not dance for you anymore. That is the point, not whether or not we feel like playing. We might 100% feel like playing. The point is we ain't going to do it because we're tired of you having our bodies. We're not dancing for you. But then it all collapses, as Warren so like perfectly explained. If you do it for one day, it's nothing. It's something the NBA can market as social justice, hashtag, you know, hashtag we like Black lives, you know, and it's like, no, you don't. Cut the playoffs. Let white people live without their basketball. Let all those investors, let Coke live without its sales. Let, you know, Nike live without its sales. And then maybe they'll do something. Maybe they'll invest in something for real. Maybe they'll disinvest from the police where their dollars go. Maybe they'll stop funding oil companies. Maybe they'll stop transferring wealth away from us when we start hitting their bottom line like that, which Martin Luther King told us in his last speech, right? He talks about Black people can withdraw money from Pepsi and withdraw money. And if we did those things, you know, and he's talking about economic boycotts, right? And we still can't like figure that out. But beyond that, yeah, beyond the NBA, it's, I think, a general organizing question is that everyone wants to have this selfie with their fist up. Everybody wants to wear the BLM shirt. And then nobody wants to live out the consequences of what it actually means, what it means to be here all day, every day, when our people are getting evicted from housing. That's organizing. We have to be organizing against that. You know, when our mothers are getting their babies taken off their breasts in the hospital, where are we then? We have to organize against that. We have to organize in the courts. We have to organize, in the businesses and in the boardrooms. Everywhere we are, we have to be organizing 24/7, and we have to outwork them because white supremacy doesn't sleep, so we can't sleep. So you can't just like, you know, be there one day, put a fist up and say, yeah, you know, we're protesting, and then walk away. That's not a protest. That's a hashtag. And that actually works for, as Warren said, it actually helps capitalism because now the NBA actually gets to look woke. Do they still have their racist dress code though? You know, like you can't even fight the racist dress code and the NBA is going to be fighting police? You mean the same police that jacked up the Toronto president of the Raptors when he's coming to the court to like celebrate, and now we have the video and we know how hardcore they lied. So they said he didn't have his credentials and he shoved them, and then the video came out and he had his credentials out and they shoved him. So shouldn't the Toronto Raptors have boycotted then? Like, your own president got jacked up by the police as you won a championship, and like, and what? So yeah, I agree with everything Warren said. And the last thing I want to say as well, no, I think I said everything I want to say. Yeah, I said the racist dress code. I had one more thing to say that I totally blanked on. But yeah, I mean, if people want to also disinvest in the NBA, they got to disinvest in Nike. Sorry, y'all, you know. I know that, Jordan famously said, Republicans buy shoes too, but that's exactly it. So even if the NBA was to stop, like if we're still wearing all that NBA apparel, we're still funding them. Oh, I know what I was going to say. I was going to say, let's big up the WNBA here, because them women have been going way hard. It was the WNBA that was wearing the T-shirts that has been protesting, taking a knee all season. And I think it's pretty clear that their activism also worked to inspire the men to take this activism, which nothing against the woman. We all know that women's sports is less than like 1% of ESPN and 99% is men's sports, right? So no matter what women are doing, it will take the powerful men with the money and the prime time outside of people like Serena or whatever, to make this happen. But I think we also really need to acknowledge here that WNBA has been going really hard on this, really, somewhat unnoticed, and have been taking a much more radical path. So yeah, that was the last thing I wanted to say.
Thank you, El Cesar.
I see everything you said. I agree.
Dr. Vibe, Donald Trump likes to talk about us living in a cultural war. When you look at white supremacy now, they're having this growing speech about white victimization and historical revisionism. Unfortunately, even as the social discourse is changing in terms of speaking more about Black issues, and truthfully, as Elle and Warren, you show, BIA Media, as we are all doing, and many others that we salute, of course. The truth of the matter is, and this is going to hurt, maybe offend some people, in great majority, our Black people are still weak ideologically, weak in terms of resolve. I'm not talking about an individual, I'm talking about a group. And when I'm talking about a group, the perception of a group is represented first and foremost in regards to its elite. I was proud of the NBA players. I even posted on Facebook about this situation, Jacob Blake, following George Floyd, following Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and so many other names, being an opportunity for someone as LeBron James to redeem himself from back in 2012 with Donald Sterling and the racist LA Clippers owner. I was disappointed, as Ellen Warren said, in terms of the fact that once again, they're hiding their hand in terms of being able to address power, turn into a performative, I don't want to say a joke. Symbolism matter. It's a first step. But I'm sorry to say this, and I remind this to Black people, notably when I give conferences, when I say Black people, white people as well, but truthfully, to our Black people, they need to understand. In a capitalist society, and understand, capitalist always comes with racist, because capitalism is the mother of is a child of mercantilism. Mercantilism being the enslavement of Africans by whites in the Western Hemisphere. Therefore, if you can't boycott, you can't fight capitalism. It's so truthful when we think of the fact that back in 1955, a certain Martin Luther King became known because he successfully led the boycott for over a year of the racist bus system. This is where the civic rights began. Even if I go before Martin Luther King, and despite the fact that he said racist comments towards Blacks, the independence of India greatly came by Gandhi through constant boycotts. We have what we can truly call our elite in terms of fame and fortune as these NBA players, but also football players. And let us remember, NBA, 85% Black players. Minimum salary, I don't have the exact number, so please someone correct me. I think the minimum player for being on a full-time team, $600,000, $750,000 a year. I'm sorry, when we become unable to boycott truthfully for meaningful change, and here I also criticize Obama because Obama was said to have been the advisor of the LeBron James and others. So when we become unable to truly boycott, we comfort whites in the belief that the system is not as bad as we say it. We comfort non-blacks in the enjoyment of black labor, of black bodies, and as such, we comfort them in the dismissal of black pain and black advocacy towards issues that concern us. Yes, there's a growing number of whites in the street, and we salute them. And thoughts to, I think, Anthony and Joshua, these two white men who were killed by the young terrorists, white 17-year-old terrorists. But when our NBA players become unable and unwilling to truly boycott, if I were a white person, why would you want me to take them so seriously? If I were Asian, Arab, Jewish, whatever you want to call it, non-black, why would I want to take so seriously the pain of the family of Jacob Blake getting shot 7 bullets close range? Why would I take so seriously the fate of blacks in France, in Australia, in Africa? It's a real problem. Very quickly in French, la question porte sur le boycott des joueurs de la NBA. Et pour dire ça de manière très brève, elle et Warren l'ont très bien dit, un boycott qui n'est pas concret et qui n'est pas dans la durée n'est rien de plus qu'un acte en performance. Et dans ce sens, ce qui arrive est tout simplement le fait que les joueurs de la NBA, que j'ai soutenus, notamment en disant que LeBron James avait une chance de venger ce qu'il n'a pas fait en 2012 avec Sterling, mais en fait, un boycott de 2 jours. Mais non, c'est pas un boycott, ce n'est qu'une performance. Et donc, en ce sens, il faut que, par rapport à la communauté noire, et notamment les élites noires, qu'on parle vraiment d'une conscientisation idéologique. Et conscientisation idéologique dans le sens où les Blancs, les non-noirs, dans la vaste majorité, ne peuvent pas nous prendre au sérieux si dans un monde capitaliste, qui est l'enfant du mercantilisme, donc la traite des Noirs par les Blancs en Occident, dans un monde capitaliste, les Noirs sont incapables de boycotter, alors qu'en 1955, Martin Luther King, et même en 1947 avec Gandhi, c'est pas le boycott qu'ils ont réussi à avancer leur cause. Donc, c'est vraiment une grave déception, une remise en question qu'on doit oser faire pour pouvoir avancer.
Thank you, all three of you. And there is a follow-up question from the audience that I'm going to ask you for responding. But Cesar, just to update you, the minimum salary in the NBA is $838,464, and that was from the 2018-2019 season. So it's probably even higher than that right now. There is 2 comments here. First of all, Diogene, I hope I got your name right. Forgive me. Diogene. NBA and NFL black don't own their teams and their leagues. That's why they can't take any action. Absolutely. Ownership is a huge thing. And then Yuri is saying, I agree with Cesar, but a question for everyone. Do you think white companies will help black people in doing something constructive? Short answer, any short responses before we move on to our next comment?
Yeah, I do.
Go ahead. You do?
Diogene, thank you for your comment. I appreciate that. I'd like to address the question, the comment, and then the question right after. I appreciate you saying that's why they can't take action. I disagree. Like I mentioned, it's what happened. I think it was in 2006. Mike Tyson went back in the ring, fought I say this respectfully. He was a white male or Russian. I can't remember his ethnicity. And I know his race was white, but I can't remember his ethnicity. And he took one punch from Mike Tyson. Boof. He looked up to the stars and he said, "Nope, that's it. I am done." And he walked out the ring. The entire stadium booed this man. All right. Now let's think about things critically. I go to the gym. I work out. Yeah, I have a little bit of a boxing background. Nothing to say like I can get in the ring with anyone, but just for fitness, right? But if Mike Tyson was to say, "Hey Warren, like I'll fight you for $2 million, $3 million," and knowing that he can punch with the power he can punch at, my answer is no. I'm not doing it. I may not get up. The point I'm trying to make here is, and I may be comical, but I'm trying not to. I assure you, if you get in the ring, you put one foot in that ring, be prepared to fight. Be prepared to fight. Don't open your mouth and then say, well, I can go only 25% of the way. That doesn't make it. People like myself, Cesar, I'll speak about myself exclusively. I've been doing this for 10, 11 years, not getting paid majority of those years, fighting for what I believe in terms of supporting the marginalized Black communities, specifically Black men. I didn't get paid majority of those years. It's only being turned around because the higher I've gone in education and the more I've been able to assert my critical thinking and ways of programming that has afforded me now to be paid for the work I'm doing. Colin Kaepernick is an example of that. He took an L. He got in the ring. He said, you know what? I'm better than myself. And he took an L. Let's be real. When he took that knee during the national anthem, he lost his career as a football player. And he's been fighting ever since. But one thing he's been fighting is the fight against Black liberation in the States. So no, I don't agree. I don't care who owns the team. You get in the ring, you want to fight, be prepared to fight. Or be booed. And I am booing those who got out the ring before the end of the 10th round or 12th round. Now, the last thing, I don't mean to dominate because I know we're...
No, stop apologizing, Warren. Go on.
Thank you. I just need to hear that acknowledgement. Thanks, Al. Appreciate you giving me that confidence there with the hand gestures. So with everyone, what do you think white companies will? Do you think white companies will help Black people in doing something constructive? Answer is no. The answer is no. I agree that there are white organizations out there that are turning the leaf and saying, let's address anti-Black racism. Let's work more exclusively with Black people who are addressing this matter. But one thing that we're not thinking about is the labor power of Black people to address this matter. It's not about the white companies' help. There's an exploitation going on right now, folks, who are doing this work. There are people who are doing this work to champion against Black liberation, and they are being exhausted, exploited at a high rate that we don't think about. So yes, there's some degree, they'll say, let's champion against anti-Black racism, but they're going to use our labor power to do that. So it's going to work counterproductive in what we're trying to do. If they're going to really address their anti-Black racism, then we need to see them get in the ring, get in the trenches with us, and do this work of learning. Blackness is socially constructed, folks. We learn Blackness. So they can learn it too, in a more humanizing and a more relationship of solidarity way. There are white people who are doing this work tirelessly. Peggy McIntosh, for example, everybody knows her, and continuing into her early 80s. So there's different ways of looking at that question. I see there's two other comments, but I'm going to stop there so we can address them.
Warren, you're on fire today.
I'm a little heated with the NBA stuff.
Would you want to jump to add to that, or do you want me to go ahead?
You can go ahead.
To put it very quickly, the Eugene question is good in the sense that this is a comment that comes often in the Black community. And my brothers and sisters, I'm going to tell you something. We must not fall victim to that notion of not owning in order not to boycott, not to take concrete actions. I am not the first Black person to have lost a job because I stood up to racism, because I refused to bow down to the paycheck, because I refuse to act unlike myself in my Black identity just so that in 2 weeks I can get a paycheck. The fear that so many of us have in behaving in such in order for a paycheck, whether it be $8 an hour or whether it be $800,000 a year, doesn't change the fact that those who want to stand up can truly and must stand up. And our historical leaders have shown us that path time and again, even to the peril of their life. Warren gave a great example in boxing. Allow me to remind you of something very important. The greatest boxer of all time is not known because of his boxing record. He is known because in the face of racism, he refused to go overseas to kill Asian people who had done nothing wrong to him for the cause of the white man to increase his imperialism and capitalism. Muhammad Ali is not the greatest known boxer worldwide on the four corners of the world because of his boxing record, but because he stood up. And as such, it becomes incumbent upon us Black people to stand up and to stand up truthfully, no matter where you are in the hierarchy of the organization. Colin Kaepernick did it. If Colin Kaepernick had been followed by the over 60% of Black players that are in the NFL and the over 80% of Black players in the NBA, what do you think would have happened? You know how many billions of dollars these two sports, I'm not even putting Major League Baseball, I'm not even putting in football, aka soccer, Black bodies, Black entertainment, Black musicians, Black comedians. At the end of the day, no, it's not for us to change white people. It's not for us to change Arabic people. It's not for us to change Asian people. Look at coronavirus. We went from anti-Asian racism to images and stories of Blacks being victim of racism in China because of coronavirus. It becomes up to us to uplift ourselves, to stand up. And this takes me to Yuri Hutchinson's question regarding white companies. Everyone, do you think white companies will have Black people in doing something constructive? Whatever a white company wants to do in terms of allyship matters, yes. In terms of equity, diversity, and inclusivity, yes. Great. Welcome. Good for you. But at the end of the day, it's about us. It's about us. It's about us to stand up. It's about us to support ourselves. It's about us to build our communities. It's about us to educate our children. It's about us to give them the fire for them to stand up, whether they're in a group of 10 or a million, or whether they're one single Black person in a white organization to say no to racism and as such, taking concrete actions. If time and again, those who notably are our elites want to put on the mask of Democrat or liberals or conservative and Republicans, what do you think happens? To be taken seriously. Très brièvement en français, c'est tout simplement le fait que l'excuse de ne pas être propriétaire des équipes telles du football américain et du basket, oui, on l'entend souvent, mais ce n'est pas une excuse. Pourquoi? Colin Kaepernick l'a prouvé. Tout comme il y a de cela des années, le plus grand boxeur du monde connu est Mohamed Ali, non en raison de son record, de son nombre de victoires, mais parce qu'il a osé se tenir debout contre le fait d'aller enrichir l'impérialisme américain, le capitalisme américain dans une guerre qui ne le concernait pas. Donc, c'est à nous, nos familles, nos communautés, de se créer, de se tenir debout. D'autres communautés le font autour de nous. Les Juifs, les Chinois, on ne les voit pas protester parce qu'ils représentent une force réelle. Ils représentent un poids concret. Et en ce sens, ce n'est pas aux compagnies blanches de nous sauver. C'est bon pour elles de participer, mais ultimement, c'est à nous-mêmes de nous auto-gérer, de nous auto-construire. C'est vraiment ça qu'il faut comprendre. And just one very little thing, no matter how many Black Lives Matter t-shirt Nike will do, or the NBA, NFL, MLB, even, how do you call them, the NHL. To what extent are they willing to address the exploitation that they do of poor workers, including white workers, but also of those overseas, abroad, making Jordan shoes, for example, that cost $200 in stores here, and sometimes we have Black youth will die over these shoes, and yet the real cost of values in terms of the labor is $15, $20. I addressed that back in June at the Black Lives Matter protest about we are wasting our money, we are wasting our energy, and we are wasting our identity to integrate into capitalism while screaming at the same time that we are victims of racism. It doesn't work that way. The system will use you and eat you up time and again.
Okay. Elle, do you want to add? This is fire today. I mean, this is good. This is real good.
I mean, I don't know if I have anything to add on to that. I wanted to just take us into really quickly something that Cesar said when he pointed out that when COVID started, we began with anti-Asian racism, and then it quickly morphed, as usual, into anti-Black racism. As Dave Chappelle said, that train ain't never late. So I just wanted to highlight that in the Atlantic region and certainly everywhere else, like all the major arrests have been Black people. So we know in New Brunswick, the person who was accused of spreading, specifically African people, like recent evidence. So we know in New Brunswick, the person was accused of spreading COVID was a doctor who had gone into Quebec to help people on reserves, like to work with Indigenous people, and then was accused of, spreading COVID to his patients. And there was, of course, major death threats. And I don't know if people are aware, in PEI, where a young Congolese international student had come to pick up his brother in Nova Scotia, had quarantined, but didn't realize his brother had COVID, had followed the rules, because we have this thing, the Atlantic bubble. So as long as you just travel between our provinces, like you're okay. And he ended up getting COVID. And so they charged him. And this is a bit of a longer story, but they end up sending him to a migrant worker facility to do his quarantine. I'm going to just guess there ain't no white people with COVID being sent to the migrant worker facility. Like only the Black student is sent there. And on the last day, he left his room because he was experiencing paranoia from being shut up in there. And the cops, when they came to arrest him, he said, "Oh, I have COVID, be careful." So they arrested him as well for uttering threats as well as breaking quarantine. And he's been in jail for a month in PEI, this young Black student. And of course, the media published his name. They put it all out there. I'm not going to say his name because I want to protect his medical privacy. There's massive death threats. His family can't even go outside. There ain't many Black people in PEI, right? Like it's obvious who it is. So yeah, I just wanted to connect that to what Cesar was saying about the ways that anti-Black racism is always underlying everything. And is always on time for us. There's always time to send us to the migrant worker facility. There's always time to arrest us and charge us. We're the ones being charged on this. So as we have this conversation, I guess, about, fighting policing and what that means for us, I just wanted to highlight that. But yeah, I think the other thing that's really important as we talk about Black unity is, and I know it's a basic thing, but I think it's actually important to articulate, like, we don't have to like each other. Black people aren't all going to get along. We're going to have personality clashes. We're going to have different backgrounds, different forms of how we communicate. We don't have to like each other. All we have to do is when it's time to move, we have to move together. That's not the same thing as liking each other. Black unity doesn't require that we like every Black person in the world. We can disagree on all kinds of things. All it requires is that we get in the right lane. We get out of the way of people who are doing work. So if it's not our work and don't have the capacity to do it, but somebody else is doing it, get out of the way and let them do it. And that we need to be on the same page when it comes to our liberation, because there's no "I told you so" in this work. I don't feel like happy when you're like, "Oh, and the NBA is not going to follow that boycott," and then they don't do it and you're like, "I told you so." There's no "I told you so," because the person it affects is me, right? Like when people mess up or don't live out our liberation or whatever, if I called it, that's not a victory. I'm just like, great, now we're all screwed again, So yeah, it's just really, really hard in those times. I think we're having a conversation about the NBA, but we saw the same thing in the NFL with Jay-Z really coming in and telling Kaepernick the time to kneel is over. That did not age well, right? So that was like last year. And then look what happened this summer. And as people pointed out, but you weren't kneeling. So how are you going to tell us not to kneel when you ain't taking a knee? Mm-hmm. But we see this all the time, right? And as we move forward, there will always be, I don't find it that hard to deal with white people who want to undermine me, because I don't really care what white people are saying or doing when it comes to politics. I don't care. But I do care about Black people. And that's what's really difficult, when it's people standing beside us and people in our own communities who are sabotaging us and getting in our way, sometimes from good intention, sometimes from bad intention. And we have to figure out how to have these political conversations, because it's not hating to say, like what you're doing isn't right. It's not hating to say, I disagree with you politically, and I think that's going to have a bad effect down the line. It's not hating to say, as Cesar said, I celebrate you for a personal accomplishment, but I'm not with you because I don't agree with what you're doing politically. And I think as Black people, we have to separate that from unity. We think unity means we have to agree publicly all the time, and it's like wrong and rude if we disagree. And in fact, we have to disagree vehemently and with principle. But what we need to do is do those things so that we can move forward. So I think Cesar and Warren have been on fire today. Obviously, sports is the place to go for conversation with Black people.
When they leave home, they get more on fire, right? When they're away from Ottawa, they loosen up.
Right? That we're living out, right? But we see Black Panthers pass. There's just some it tells us that we have to meet culturally. We have to be ready to meet these moments as well, right? I really liked Warren's analysis of if you're going to get in the ring, and Black people have found our power for a long time through culture. When we're denied other forms, when we're denied our name on a check, we've always had our body. right? We've always had our style, how we have swag, how we wear our hat. Willie Mays wearing his hat back is an expression of Black resistance. How we caught the ball, how we walk into a room. These are things that for centuries, when we denied everything else, we're like, me make my body my canvas, you know? The very thing that you hate about me, my Blackness and my body, is going to be the thing. So culture is outsized for us. It's more important for us than other people. What Kanye West is doing isn't just something we can dismiss and say, well, that's just foolishness, because it's so central to the only places we've been allowed to have power. And you see that coming out in these conversations. So we have to have a real question about, you know, what does our culture mean to us? And do we continue to invest in pieces of our culture if they cannot meet our moment? And how do we put pressure on our celebrities and people to make sure that they're representing us, not just for the music video, but every day on these streets? Like, where's their money going? What are they investing in? You know, so
we're gonna move on due to time. No worries, it's okay. I'm gonna read comments because and just quickly, because we're gone a little bit over time, but I think it's been well worth it today. I think for everybody who's watching this or listening to this live on the replay. Real Dan Django is saying, I hear you, but shouldn't it be up to Black people to show white people that they've been wrong in how they treat Black people and other people wrongly? And then he says, white people aren't stupid. They know what they've been doing. He also says they probably won't admit it. Yuri says, you're not only their investment, they will put in a little money and yes, exploitation for more money and to keep you being a consumer and buying from them to keep Black business still under the mat. Like Cesar said about capitalism, marketism. They make more money by investing into you. Yuri also says, why are they helping us now and not before? We have been saying this since the 1960s and have been around for hundreds of years. We've been saying that for longer than 1960. And then Real Dango 411 says, exactly, as a whole, we have to work on ourselves. No, not to buy new shoes, a new hat, or tattoo. We have to educate ourselves. Well, Elle had mentioned in her last take about cultural and the Black world, and I think the world lost a cultural icon. And last Friday night, I was actually listening to some music by one of my favorite DJs on IG Live, and the notice came out that Chadwick Boseman passed away. And for those who don't know who he is, well, let's put it this way. If you don't know who he is, again, your head's in the sand and maybe in other parts. I ain't going to go there. But he was a star of a number of films, Black Panther, also Jackie Robinson's story, also Thurgood Marshall, who was the first Black Supreme Court Justice of the United States, and died at 43 years old after battling colon cancer for 4 years. I think it would only be proper to get each one of your takes on the loss of this gentleman and what potential impact, what impact does it have on the Black lens? Who would like to go first?
I'll go. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I have one thing to say, so I'll go first, and then they can go longer. I saw this great post that just said, you know, consider that this man had stage 4 cancer, and nobody in his crew gave it up. So they're like, that tells you what kind of person he is, that he had people that were that solid around him, kept their mouths shut for years. I mean, this was years that he was ill, and we never heard about it. And I just thought that was so true, you know, like, to be the kind of person that has crew around you that will ride for you like that and keep your mouth shut and be that solid, so that it came as a surprise. I think that is a testament to the kind of man he must have been. Obviously, I don't know him personally, but we know by the people around you. You know, we know by the behavior around you. And that kind of integrity in the people around him, I think, speaks highly to the man that he was. And that's all I have to say there.
Thank you, El. Who's up next?
I'll say again. I'm not going to take up too much space on this because it's more importantly to acknowledge but not to dominate. I think it's going to be a great loss. I think it shows his true testament to his commitment to Black America and Black people worldwide. For him to be ill for the last 4 years and dealing with that and still being able to work and inspire people. It says a lot about his character, who he was as a man, and what his values were. None of us could ever understand what he was going through. We can only speculate. We can only try to understand, but to actually get a true understanding of how he felt and what he was dealing with mentally and physically, obviously, we would never know. I saw a post. I saw a few posts on Chadwick Boseman, and one post really caught my attention where, internet troller, as there are many, as they are, was commenting on how skinny he was looking in April, and making fun of him. And not once did he clap back or you heard anything from him. It was just so sad just to know, like, people judge people based on a person's book, which we generally a lot of people do, but don't even take an opportunity to say, hey, maybe something's up, or maybe I should make a comment. Maybe keep my comments to myself. And for him to not only hide his illness the way he did respectfully, he also gave back to the community tremendously. Not monetary necessarily, just by showing up. Like, think of it, you're battling cancer, colon cancer. I don't know what that feels like. I don't know what that respectfully said. And he's gone to sick kids hospitals in the States who are dealing with cancer, and still put on the Black Panther persona, and to inspire these young people, regardless of what ethnicity or race they were. I saw the post, and there's a learning from that. I think that it shows us how to be humble, how to appreciate life, and give back and pay it forward. So I'm gonna stop there. Again, I don't want to dominate, but that's all power to the Black Panther.
Cesar, you'll finish up.
I don't know what to say. Let's start with the truth that many won't want to hear. Chadwick Boseman, in terms of the impact that he has created through a Black Panther Wakanda, as Warren said and Elle said, stage 4 colon cancer, still being dedicated to the sick children, dedicated to the people, giving the speeches in terms of identity, being basically the, if I can put it that way, the prodigal son of Denzel Washington, in terms of continuing his work of proper, truthful, historical Black representation, even in fiction, the symbolism and the impact that he had left. 2,000 years ago, Chadwick Boseman would have been a Messiah character. He would have been a Black Jesus. But he existed. And he's leaving us with what I could say. I mean, I'm going to take a very small example. I discovered him in 2013 with the movie Jackie Robinson, 42. And 2 years ago, when Black Panther came out, I brought my nephew, I believe he was maybe 5 years old at the time, the son of my colleague, Ketsia Peters, CEO of Roots and Culture Canada, because it was important. And congratulations. I think, Warren, you actually even did something to bring Black youth to see the movie, but some organizations came together. Honestly, the impact it had, not just on Black people, but even on non-Blacks worldwide. Yes, it's fiction, but the fact that he played this role, and whatever the criticism that some may have regarding the movie, Black empowerment, Black spirituality without churches and mosques, Black love, the respect and dignity of Blacks towards Blacks, addressing the very psycho-emotional issues and impacts of slavery and colonization, addressing geopolitics, addressing Black intellect, Black innovation, Black scientific creations. I found out about his death when I was leaving the restaurant with my lady and some friends, close friends, Black friends of my debate club. We couldn't believe it. We didn't know. As Elle said, it speaks to the quality of his circle, that for 4 years battling this, and it didn't leak out in a world in which so many celebrities are just seeking attention from drama. I have the utmost respect for the memory of Chadwick Boseman. I have the utmost respect for what, in a short time frame, 2013, 2020, he was like a shooting star, a short life, but so bright that it illuminates the entire sky for all to see. This is Pan-Africanism. This is Black excellence. This is the type of things we must tell our children. This is a hero. En français, j'ai découvert Chadwick Boseman, donc le héros de Black Panther, en 2013 avec le film 42 sur Jackie Robinson. Et là, voici 2020 qui vient de mourir après l'œuvre magistrale de Black Panther, de Wakanda, qui a un impact à travers le monde. Mais il est beaucoup plus que cela. Par l'impact qu'il a eu, malgré la maladie, et continue à être sur le terrain, notamment pour les enfants, mais également éveiller la conscientisation des Noirs par des bons rôles, des films importants. Il est comme une figure messianique, un Jésus qui aurait vraiment existé. Mais en fait, c'est le fait de comprendre qu'il représente une excellence noire. Il représente ce que le panafricanisme dit. Il représente ce que nous devons enseigner à nos enfants, ce à quoi nous devons aspirer. Il est un héros, on ne l'oubliera pas. I will not forget him. It really moves me. It really moves me, honestly. It really moves me because I also have chronic health issues and nothing to compare, but I'm just so amazed by him. So absolutely amazed by him. Je suis très ému et très impressionné, sincèrement. Great man.
Thank you. Thank you, friends. Fantastic done today. I think I'm going to add a few things before we finish off today. First of all, he did have colon cancer, but I want to inspire and tell Black men, go to your doctor. Please. There's at least one other person in the world that's counting on you, and health is very, like, we all hear the thing, guys don't like going to the doctor. Well, Black men, it's even deeper. So I just want to put that out there. And I have a few more comments, but I'm just going to make sure I give the roll call for everybody, saying thank you to Dave. Thank you, Real Dango. Gary Campbell, thank you so much for taking the time to drop by. Yuri. We also have Diongine, Moringa, Ottawa, Leslie Yaffa, and others. Thanks so much for watching live on the replay. One other thing I will say, and a lot of the conversation this evening was in regards to what Blacks need to do. And a gentleman, I won't give his name out here, but he does speak a lot, and I catch some of what he says. And he says that Blacks will not move forward until they have control over three areas: media, education, and business. And he also says that maybe we should stop putting money into Nike and invest in our own communities and help some of the activists like that are on this platform right now, because they're doing the work. We have to question if organizations like Nike are doing the work for Black people. Maybe we should take some of our dollars we spend on those products, invest it in our people in the front line that are making positive differences for generations to come. My name is Dr. Vibe, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations. I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. I am the host of Epic Conversations, and it's the home of Epic Conversations. Also, I actually want to read just two more comments because I don't like to leave people's comments out. Gary says, appreciate the panel. Good discussion. Change begins with us. Until we have more candid discussions, quote, in-house, unquote, we won't have unified political voice to improve the Black experience. And Dave says, we got to make some better health choices. We're going to need all of us in this fight. Very much so. If you want to touch base with me, best place to go is my website, thedrvibeshow.com. And as always, I like to say, live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Block assumptions, then aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Thanks to BIA Media for another excellent production job. God bless. Peace be well. Keep the faith. Walk good. Bye, everybody.